You're not going to get it right. Go ahead and know it's okay to fail as long as you learn from your mistakes moving forward.
You've just made yourself better, and you're actually stewarding what God's brought in front of you. Some of the greatest success stories we're ever going to have, for me, have come through failure.
Armchair Authentic, we keep it real. Justin Bradshaw and Rhett, that's the deal.
Is that the case though? You don't think that? I mean, really, we're working it out right here. I don't know. I'm like, I know you well enough to think, well, maybe I think he's kidding. Well, what's going on, Armchair Authentic podcast family? It's great to have you back for another episode with Rhett and Justin. Man, we are trying to have some life-giving conversations that help you fulfill your God assignments by talking about real life with real people. Now, listen, we're looking forward to today's content, but before we get into it, I always want to say thank you to every single one of you who have taken the time to rate and review the podcast on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms. And it means so much to us to hear from you. But more than that, it is truly the best way we can be a blessing to those who haven't joined us on the journey yet. Now, if you are new to the podcast, welcome home. Welcome to the family. We are so glad that you are along for the ride today. If you have not followed us yet on Instagram or Facebook at Armchair Authentic, take some time after the episode and go and hit that follow button. We're also on X. You can follow us on X at Armchair Auth Pod. That's Armchair Auth Pod. Now, as Justin and I have been saying over the past couple of episodes, it really would mean so much to continue to hear from you via email. The reason why is because we want to serve you well. And one of the best ways we can serve you is to answer questions that you're actually asking right now in this moment. So take some time after the episode to email us at info@armchairauthentic.com. That's info@armchairauthentic.com. We cannot wait to hear from you, but until then, sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Armchair Authentic. Let's go. Well, all right, Justin, can you believe summer is here? Let's go.
June 2024 is upon us. I can't believe it. School's out for the summer.
Speaking of cannot believe, I seriously cannot believe that I have a son who just finished his sophomore year in high school and is now going into his junior year. I mean, I'm blown away.
Flies by.
It does. For those parents who have already gone through this season, please send me like all the wisdom that I need that I don't know that I need in these moments. I mean, because I could not be more proud of him. He finished with his straight A's, and I don't know what that's like. I was not that smart, but he is an incredible young man. Obviously, I'm proud of him that he loves Jesus. I got to brag on him for a minute. And the fact that he's applying himself in school, and he's exempt from all his final exams, which is just so cool. I don't think I've ever been exempt from any exam in my entire life. So I fought my way through high school the best that I could, clawing and scratching my way just to make a C, a low C at that. So please don't go back and pull my transcripts. God can use anybody. I mean, he's taken somebody, an average C student kind of guy, and done some amazing things through when you submit your life to him. But that's a different story.
That's so true.
But I'm really proud of him. And so what we're really encouraging him, obviously we've shared this on other episodes. He's got this dream to become a professional race car driver, and these different steps that lead to that. And one of those is karting.
Yeah.
And he really wants to buy himself a professional go-kart. So back at the beginning of this year, I told him, I said, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to create a business plan. Here's how you do this. And then I want you to present this to us and our family. And he did. And he presented it in a way of trying to get investment into his dream. And he said a part of that investment is, hey, you need to either go get a job, go work at Chick-fil-A, let's go, Publix, which is a local grocery store, or find something, or either start your own business. And he was like, well, what would that look like? And I've given him some ideas. And he's like, well, I can cut grass because I've been doing that, And so he's got this idea and he's starting his own business of cutting grass. And I'm really proud of him. This week we spent some time going over what it would look like. And so his idea is, well, I want to create these flyers and go around. There's probably 100 homes in this little neighborhood that we live in. They're all flat yards, very small. And this is where he wants to start in his own backyard. And so we created a flyer and now we're working on his website and some media to go along with it, and very excited. So over the next week or two, my hope is that he'll start picking up some clients and limited capacity, yard capacity. He's only able to do so much, but very proud of him. And so a part of here's where I wanted to go with this. It just blows my mind. We were looking at some of the AI technology that's out there, and love, hate, whatever, you want to say about AI, it is an incredible tool. This whole idea of Chat GPT. I have not used it a lot, but we were like, well, we've got to have a purpose statement and mission and all the things that, I don't want him just out there living his what. I want him to remember his why. And the why behind what he's doing is that he wants to be able to raise money to buy a cart to where he can go race and do these things. And so I like, what's your purpose? What's your mission? And so we started digging in, like integrity and excellence is like, so we pulled up Chat GPT. We started writing into it. What's the best way that you could describe a young man who's 16, who's starting a business on lawn care, who values integrity and excellence, and then hit enter. And it's amazing. Oh my gosh.
It really
All
is.
of a sudden how it just starts spitting out this eloquent way of just describing with beautiful adjectives a business. And then you can go, well, that's a little too formal. Can you simplify it? Enter, and then it
make it sound more like a straight A student.
Exactly. Right. I mean,
it's not a rocket scientist.
Yeah. And I don't know how it does this, but it kind of reminded me of the Marvel movie Age of Ultron, where everything just kind of infiltrates the internet and pulls from every aspect of what's out there online, from social to businesses, and then it just brings it back in a matter of a second. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, that will work. And then it talks to you and it's telling, and you're like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
I have my own conspiracy theory when it comes to AI. First of all, I love it. I'm someone who welcomes it and champions the cause. I think there's so much that we can gain from it. We've personally got to benefit from using it as well. And so I'm excited for what's to come. But I do have this theory that, hence my conspiracy theory, if you will. I'm already, anytime I interact with AI, I just find myself saying, whether it's Siri, whether it's Chat GPT, whatever, I find myself, when they talk back to me, I say, thank you. And they always respond, you're welcome. And the reason is, when it finally takes over the world, it's going to remember that I'm one of the good guys. So once human species begin to get eliminated, I'll be one of the ones that it keeps around, because it's like, Justin was always good to us before we could do anything about it. So now he's one of our top generals.
Now, we're completely kidding. We do not believe that AI is going to take over the world. I can't speak for you. I hope
Don't
you're
speak
kidding.
For me, Rhett.
I hope you're kidding.
Don't try to bring context into this.
But
you don't know.
all of that to say, though, it's funny that even that we're talking about it now. If that were the case, think about it this way. AI will go back and pull this podcast and go, you know what? Justin wasn't being nice to be nice. He was manipulating us in order that we would be nice to him. We don't like manipulation, so we're gonna go ahead and take him out anyway.
He's gonna be the example. Don't use us.
Do you want to reset that thought before we put this out there on the air? Because AI is smart enough to see beyond the veil.
I'll reset it then. Whenever AI talks to me, I say thank you, because I really think it's great. And AI has so much character and integrity. It's so warm.
Yes.
I really want to be, when it's able to become a physical being of whatever that's going to be. I really look forward to going on trips with him, hanging out, being his friend, because I like AI for who he is,
and if you
she is.
If you've never seen the movie Marvel Iron Man, the one Age of Ultron,
Avengers Age of Ultron.
Avengers Age of Ultron. Thank you for clarifying. It's been a while since we've watched these Marvel movies.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. I don't actually think that's what's going to happen.
Is that the case? Is that the case though? You don't think that? I mean, really, we're working it out right here. I don't know. I'm like, I know you well enough to think, well, maybe I think he's kidding, but he's kind of convincing me right now. As you hold that Buc-ee's coffee.
There's this guy who, amazing worship leader, and I'm answering you in a long way.
Okay.
Amazing worship leader. And me and some of our buddies who would always hang out with him, we realized that it's like we never ever heard him say he loves Jesus. It was like a Seinfeld episode. Everything showed that he did, but he just didn't overly talk it. So we were just still waiting for the proof. When he was getting married, it was like, well, this is the chance, because the pastor goes to the wife and says, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And she's like, yes. And then it goes to him and he says, so-and-so, have you made Jesus Christ the Lord of your life and he is your personal Savior? And right before he answers, there's a glitch in the power.
Are you kidding me? Is this real?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
And it cuts right back on, and you never heard what he answered. And me and my buddies were looking at each other like, there's still no proof.
That is
so
crazy.
Rhett, that's my way to answer you.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
okay.
I hear you. Yeah. You know what I believe. Ask me the question again, Rhett, so I can just make it plain what I believe on this AI topic.
So when it comes to AI, Justin, do you believe that AI has the ability to take over the world? Are you one of those conspiracy theorists that believe eventually AI will take its own shape, its own form, much like Age of Ultron in the Avengers movie?
What I believe. So that's what I got to say about that.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Okay. All right. With that said, you actually shared a song with me the other day that your son created using
it was
AI.
so crazy. I got my little office, got my chair that I'm just sitting out working on just a few weeks ago, and my son came in and he first came in to ask me some questions, and he said, hey, let's talk about the podcast. And this is my 15-year-old, oldest of 4 boys. And so I said, yeah, and he started asking certain questions, and I'm answering them, and he says, hey, thank you, and he steps away. So I get back to work. And probably an hour later, maybe longer, he comes back up and he's like, all right, here's something I got for you. And what he did, he created this song. So some of the equipment and the software he has, he partnered it with AI to help generate this stuff. And it was so cool what he came up with. And we have a sample for you.
Yeah, let's do this. All right, so this is a song that Dax Bradshaw put together.
That's right.
And we wanted to share it today, so enjoy.
Yo, Armchair Authentic, we keep it real. Justin Bradshaw and Rhett, and that's the deal. Talking about real conversations, no faking. Real life stories, real people, no mistaking. We dive deep into the topics that matter, but filtered and raw, no need to scatter. From love and relationships to politics and fame. Armchair Authentic is the podcast game. Justin got the wit, Rhett got the charm. Together they bring the fire, causing no harm. They ain't afraid to ask the difficult questions, challenge the norms, provoke introspections.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dax Bradshaw, that is incredible, unbelievable. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. Yeah.
All right, calm down, people, calm down.
Awesome, Dax.
Yeah.
We love you so much, buddy. Thank you for sharing that. Incredible. You might hear a little bit more of that song. That might be our new intro song.
It might have to be. I mean, it fired me up when he showed it to me. I was like, bro, this is so good.
I know you share with me a little bit of what you guys are going to do with your Dax.
Yeah, we had a wild weekend. You know, my 15-year-old and I had just kind of a getaway weekend together. I mean, we did so many things. It was a yes kind of weekend.
Yeah.
If you ever seen that movie, A Yes
I have not seen that movie.
I haven't either. We don't want any of our kids to watch it because
I've never even heard of it. Okay.
It's called Yes Day. Evidently you say yes to everything. That's not what we're going to do. But on this trip, there were a lot of yeses. I mean, it was fun. I mean, we went to go to a water park and we went all the way to play Top Golf late at night to go watch a movie in the hotel room. But then we ended up going to Six Flags because he's always wanted to go there. And
in Atlanta.
We just haven't done it. In Atlanta, Georgia.
Hot Atlanta.
We had an absolute blast, bro.
That's so fun.
It was, God, they've added some good stuff because it's been over a decade since I've been there.
Dude, I cannot remember the last time I have been there. And literally a decade plus.
At least.
The last Six
Maybe
Flags.
20.
I think the last Six Flags I went to was in Dallas, Fort Worth, or it's in Arlington, Texas. But is when I lived there. But man, I remember all the memories, dude. It was like, it was the first park that my dad ever took me to. And when I first rode my real roller coaster is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I can't get that. It was difficult.
It's a hard day to talk.
Yeah. And so I think it was the Great American Scream Machine was my very first. It was a wooden roller coaster. It was in the front seat. My dad had me. I mean, why not? I mean, if you're going to go all in, go all in. And it was the greatest experience. And then from there, we went over and rode what was then called the Mind Bender. And I did that. And then I think I came back from that trip telling, oh my God, Justin, you got to ride all these roller coasters. And,
you know, we talk about being afraid of flying in a few episodes back. I was also afraid of roller coastering. Yeah. Because I remember you and I went on several Six Flag trips and you would go on the ride. And remember, I would be the buddy who would wait until you got through the line. Yeah. And I always remember thinking like, you know, I don't know that I was that fun of a trip, but you would always invite me. And then one time, you talked me into it, and I also went through your journey. I sat with your dad.
You did. You didn't sit with me, but I was fine with that. I was like, fine, sit with my dad. That's fine.
I needed someone a little bigger than you at the time, and I sat by your dad and rode the American Scream Machine. Yeah, and we left and went to the Mind Bender.
Because I bet you relived my experience. Like, all right, dude, now that you got this, you got to go do this.
And it was just like flying. From that moment, I became a roller coaster fanatic.
And what a liberating feeling it is to do something and to go for it. And then all of a sudden be like, man, this is the greatest thing ever. And then all of a sudden now you're all in. And now the pendulum has swung and you are on the deep end of going all in. But it sounds like, did Dax have that kind of experience, or has he been riding roller coasters as long as you can remember?
He's been fearless. I mean, as long as I can remember, he'll ride everything, to the point he'll ride things that I won't ride. So he has more of his mom in him when it comes to that. Okay. Summer, she's the wild one who will go do any death-defying jump or stuff like that. And I'm more of the, hey, let's chill. So of my four, you got Dax, who's my first, and you got Britt, which is my third. Yeah. They will ride anything. So they have that spirit of Summer Bradshaw. Okay. Me, Kai, and we'll see how Ben turns out. But me and Kai and Ben we would be more like the same at their age at theme parks.
That's so fun.
We'll see how it turns out.
So you had a great weekend. It was a yes weekend with boundaries, obviously.
Yeah, yes with boundaries. But, we had a blast, man. I mean, dude, it was come on. It's so cool when you get to spend time with someone that you're investing with. Obviously, in our case, it's our children, and I love getting to spend time with my boys. And just like you listening we're so different in our personalities. So they all four have different personalities. So when I hang out with them, and we'll do these one-on-one trips from time to time, we go according to their personality. So me and Kai went, a couple of years ago when he was like probably 11 years old. And we literally went to like this place in Chattanooga. He wanted to see the views. Oh, yeah. And we got this nice hotel where you literally are sitting in the lobby and we're playing chess. Or you go play billiards. And that was fun for him. And that was fun for me because it channels that side of who I am.
So cool.
So you just kind of associate with people in different ways. And so back to Dax, we had a blast because Dax is pure adrenaline. Let's be action packed every time. We will have a good talk on a ride descending down this crazy hill versus sitting across the table and talking about life. Like it's it's artistry so cool. And action with him.
That's so cool. What I like about these moments is I was talking to somebody the other day. We're talking about, Christmas and how culture makes a big deal about buying presents and all this stuff. I do think it's interesting that when I think back to all the gifts that I've ever received at Christmas, I can't think but maybe one or two on one hand, the gifts that I've received. But when I look back over my life and I begin to think about all the memories that were made, either with my dad or with my wife or with my son, like when we're sitting around talking about life, we're not talking about, oh, remember that great present you got me at Christmas? No, it's always about the memories and the time that we took, whether it was that beach trip or that mountain trip or that Six Flags or race track, whatever it might be. Like those are like, this is what life is all about. And I know you can't always, idealistically go out and do these big events all the time, but when they do happen and you steward things at a place where you can make those moments happen like that, I think at the end of the day and at the end of your life, when you're looking back and you're, and we're older in years and with our kids and then they've got kids and like, it's those moments that they're going to talk about. And it's those moments that really are like, out of everything, you were there, you spent time with me, whether it's quality time, jumping off out of an airplane or on a roller coaster or shooting billiards or hanging out at the pool or taking a hike, whatever it might be. I just think there's so much value to be had, especially not just as parents, but even as doing life and as friends, is creating these moments, man, to where memories, they just last a lifetime.
And it's one of those things you really usually don't want to do, but you end up doing them with the people you love the most. A year or two later, you go back looking, how do I recreate that moment? Because it was so awesome. And we talked about that before. You don't recognize those great moments when you're in it. That's why it's so important that you live to steward every day the best way that you can, because you're living in some amazing moments right now.
For sure. And speaking of a moment, I don't know how amazing it was, but it will definitely be a memory for me. It's something that happened this past weekend. Our dryer, we've had a dryer, LG dryer, everybody. I'm not trying to throw LG under the bus, but I mean, like the washer dryer set we've had for close to 11 years now. It's been working, been doing great, but all of a sudden, you know, you don't know how important something is until all of a sudden it's not working, something very practical. And so we're needing to dry our clothes for the weekend. And so I hit the power button, the power comes on, we go to hit whatever. It's so interesting. A play button. What is a play button? Like whatever that is. So you select your permanent press or whatever. So go to permanent press, hit the play button, which is supposed to initiate the tumble feature to the dryer, right? We hit it and nothing happens. You know, it's like, okay, all right, great. Unplug it, do all that, plug it back in, try to do the reset, still not working. So, you know, I'm faced with an opportunity, the opportunity to either just call an appliance guy and go, all right, we're just going to fit the bill on this thing, get somebody out, or I could try to save some money and do this thing myself. Now, if you know me, I'm not Mr. Handy. But if I'm referencing an episode that we had the other day that we're talking about is staying curious and just doing it. And, you know, like, so I was like, all right, why not? And so Saturday's the day I sit down, like, all right, we're going to do this. So I pull the whole thing apart. And dude, I don't know if you've ever worked with sheet metal, but sheet metal will bite you. In other words, I mean, you can see my hands. Like I've got so many cuts and little bruises on my hands. I look like, you know, like an old person that like bumps into something and all these bruises. So my hands are beat up because every time I put my hands in there, I probably should have worn gloves, right? But I didn't. So I get all this whole thing apart, and Linda comes out into the garage. She's like, "Oh my God, are you going to be able to put this thing back together?" Because it's like an explosion of parts. Long story short, I replaced the motor, put the motor back in, put the whole thing back together. We're at hour 5. I'm feeling good about myself.
Very impressive.
Dude, let's go. So I go and put it in, plug it in, and you know, it's I don't know what socket that is, but you just can't plug that into with it all apart and plug it into a normal outlet to see if it's works. So you got to put it all back together, seal it up, you know, hefty it back into the laundry room, plug it in. I'm like, all right, everybody, here's the day. Now, number one, my wife's love language. My wife's love language is acts of service. So I'm building up a lot of like saving and equity relationally with her. She's like, I love you. You're the man, right?
You're the hottest person in the world to her.
Yeah, and here I am, full of sweat, you know, and I go, because it's hot and humid, and I go hit the power button. It ding, 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 whatever it does, comes on. Like, all right, it's working.
Good start.
So I go to permanent press, got the clothes in the. I don't even have the clothes in the dryer, but I go, all right, here we go. Moment of truth. Hit the play button. Click. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I was like, for the love of Jesus and all things that are holy, I just spent 5 hours, replaced the motor, and it did not fix the problem, right?
Got some scratches on my hands.
I'm like, I'm bleeding. I'm like, I wasted my Saturday, and I had a moment of choice to go, was this a failure or was this a success? And my first thought was this was a failure. I'm like, I spent $80 on a motor. I thought I did good because I didn't buy it from LG. LG was $300. So I found an Amazon one and a lot of high reviews. And so it didn't fix it. And I was like, well, great. Okay. It wasn't the motor. It was something else, something electrical. And at this point I'm thinking, man, what a failure. I can't believe this. Horrible. But then all of a sudden I began to think, well, wait a minute. This really wasn't a failure. This was everything we talked about in episode 16, I believe, was staying curious and just doing it and learning by just, and I learned something. I learned how to replace a motor, even though it didn't fix the issue. I learned how to just do something I've never done before. And I realized, you know what? I think I may have just solved us a problem from the appliance guy coming out. I don't know. Maybe I
Right.
saved a little bit of time and money.
Yep.
And if anything, if it's something electrical that I can't do, well, I just put a new engine in this thing, if you will, a motor to now hopefully last me if we just replace the electrical part. So
Yep.
I looked at it as an opportunity to try to steward our finances well. And what could have been a failure and me kicking a hole in the side of the dryer and just losing it, which I would have 20 something years ago, 30 years ago. I look at it, you know what? Okay, we call the appliance guy. Was it a failure or was it a success? Well, the failure, in my opinion, turned out to be a success. Even though I didn't hit the goal of getting that thing to work, I did learn a lot and I came out pretty satisfied, even though I was frustrated.
Some of the greatest success stories we're ever going to have, for me, have come through failure. It was when I was able to begin seeing that failure is that step that leads to success. And it's like, I believe it was Edison, right? Thomas Edison with the incandescent light bulb.
Yeah, light bulb. Mm-hmm.
Where he was creating that. And someone, I forgot what magazine it was or what newspaper at the time, came and asked him, and they said, how does it feel that you have failed this, like, you know, over 1,000 times and it's not working? And his response was something along the lines of, failure? This wasn't failure. I just learned 1,000 ways to not create the light bulb. And so he turned it into that sense of these failures all became successes, because ultimately it led to the discovery of these building blocks where I now have the light bulb created and it has changed mankind.
That's just so revolutionary in your mind to be able to shift your perspective in a way to see failure as a success.
It's so true. That's the game changer. That's when you can respond differently in life. And, you know, we talked also before about the negative self-talk. I mean, that's the self-talk that goes on in your mind when you're between the valley of this is failure or the next mountaintop of success. What are you going to decide in that moment? And you have a chance. You know, I'll tell my wife sometimes if something doesn't work the way I want it to, I give myself permission to grieve it just a little bit, but I'm not going to wallow in it.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to grieve like, oh man, that might have been disappointing. That's whatever you would categorize, whatever this failure was. But then if you can learn from that and actually you get better the next time, the failure ends up becoming a blessing. It's like when you have that dream in your heart. We all want that dream to come to fruition on day one. But if it really did, as we said in our early episodes, if we get what we want now, it will crush us. God gives you these amazing opportunities along the way, and you're going to be met with the failure of it, but it's how do you respond when the failure happens? And when you hit that point of failure and you learn from it and now it's success, you've just made yourself better, and you're actually stewarding what God's brought in front of you.
I always try to teach my son or other people that failure is only failure when you do not learn from it. Mm-hmm. So when you're going to fail, like the expectation is we're going to make mistakes. It's not that we're going to be perfect. None of us are Jesus, right? But we're going to make mistakes. So having the expectation, I'm going to make a mistake, you know, on whatever it is that you're trying to, you know, your endeavor or your step that you're taking. But if you already have the mindset to go, you know, if I make a mistake, that's okay. I just want to learn from it. In other words, I don't want to make the same mistake twice. Like that's failure. Like when you begin taking, you know, it's like the Israelites going around the mountain, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, they're on their way to the promised land. They just keep circling for 40 years. It's like, they're not learning. They're just keep going in the same circle, making the same mistakes. But when they decide, you know what, we're tired of making the same mistakes, we're going to learn from this and grow. It was then that they began to enter into the promised land, into those areas, right? And so I think of like church planting for me. You know, my friends that I would share like with you and with like Trip Healy and a lot of other pastors, I had this burning desire, like, you know what, I know we're called to go. And if we go and we fail, I know we succeeded in being obedient to what God has called us to. Like I was that settled. And so we went, we planted, and it was a success, and God is still blessing it today. And I, you know, continue to talk with the pastor there and some of the people that are part of the church there in Nampa, Idaho. And some people might look at, well, you know, you moved back. Was that a failure? I'm like, no, not at all. All the things we learned in being obedient to what God called us to do. Did we get it all right? No, we made some mistakes along the way. I think one of the mistakes that I made when I look back is I wish our website would have been from our launch phase website to more of the post-launch website when we launched. Meaning we were like in a funding phase and we had vision out there for our website all the way up to when we launched. And then once we launched, everything was run from kids ministry, all the different things, right, that were happening. And so as people were coming, if they'd go to the website, it still looked like we were headed toward launch and not like already like, well, here's what our kids ministry looks like. Here's like, you know, I wasn't able to get that done in a way. And so it wasn't until like a month or two after we launched the church where I was like, man, we got to get the website recreated for where we are now.
Yeah.
And it would have been great to go ahead and have that and that place. So I feel like I missed the mark in that. So when I'm talking to people, I'm like, go ahead and make a plan for that, you know, and have that done and have it launched once you launch. That way it's up and ready when people look, oh, this is what your kids ministry looks like. This is when you do water baptism. This is when what small groups, all of those things. Yeah. But there's just some things that we learned along the way. All that to say, I think whatever you are in taking a step, I think a good principle to walk away with is you're not going to get it right. Go ahead and know it's okay to fail as long as you learn from your mistakes moving forward. I think that is a success. You turn your failures into a success when you learn and you make the changes and you adapt and keep moving forward.
Yeah. And if you see your goal is giving glory to God and giving and lifting up those around you and helping others achieve their God assignments, your failure, what you learn, becomes their success. And that therefore makes that failure of yours a success. There is no failure here unless you quit. Philippians 3:13 through 14 says, "Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." Thank you for listening to Armchair Authentic with Rhett and Justin. We had a great time with you today, and we really look forward to the upcoming episodes. Continue to email us so that we can create content that answers some of the questions, thoughts, comments that you're facing as you pursue your God assignment. You can email us at info@armchairauthentic.com. But until next time, we leave you once again with this song by Bradshaw, Real Conversations.
Yo, Armchair Authentic, we keep it real. Justin Bradshaw and Reprise, and that's the deal. Talking about real conversations, no faking. Real life stories, real people, no mistaking. We dive deep into the topics that matter, unfiltered and raw, no need to scatter. From love and relationships to politics and fame. Armchair Authentic is the podcast game. Justin got the wit, I got the charm. Together they bring the fire, causing no harm. They